On your first question, Muhammad, on the latest development regarding the USA and Venezuela. Good afternoon to all. Well, what we are seeing in the Caribbean right now is in some isolated event. This is a really continuation of the interventionist doctrine that has always characterized U.S. foreign policy towards Latin America. At its core, it is a hegemonic strategy to control natural resources and weaken any government that stands firm on its sovereignty. Now, in practical terms, here's what it really happens. The US has mobilized a significant naval armada. We are talking of destroyers, cruisers, amphibious assault ships, and even nuclear powered submarines, all backed by advanced fighter jets and thousands of troops. It is an unprecedented show of force, honestly, something we haven't seen in recent decades. And this force is completely out of proportion with their official excuse, which is combating drug trafficking. I mean, the United Nations itself has stated that Venezuela isn't even a major drug trafficking route. So this war on drugs pretexts is a deplorable disguise. The real goal is much broader: to pressure Venezuela from within, to divide its people, to critically weaken support for President Maduro's legitimate government, and tragically, to prepare the ground for a potential military intervention. Alongside this military threat, the US is using other forms of aggression, like the crippling economic sanctions and financial blockade against Venezuela. These measures are a form of collective punishment. They are a violation of human rights. We Cubans know this method all too well. It has been used against us for over 60 years through the criminal blockade, a policy condemned almost unanimously at the United Nations. These aren't just sanctions, they are acts of war in peacetime designed to bring a sovereign people to their knees through hunger and need. In response, though, Venezuela has acted with tremendous firmness and dignity. They have initiated major military exercises, including electronic warfare and air defense deployments with armed drones and surveillance systems. President Maduro has mobilized the armed force and the Bolivarian militia, integrating civilians and retired soldiers. This shows two things: massive popular support and a real technical capacity to deter any aggression, and defend their sovereign space. Furthermore, these U.S. actions in Caribbean waters are flagrant violations of international law. The recent attacks on vessels they claim are linked to drug trafficking were carried out without any verifiable evidence and without the backing of any international organization. Legal experts worldwide and even some Democratic congressmen in the US have called these attacks illegal and criminal. And it gets more dangerous. The Trump administration has openly floated the possibility of attacking targets inside Venezuelan territory. That isn't just a threat, it is the equivalent of an invasion. Now, President Trump just announced that he authorized CIA to act within Venezuelan territory, something that has been really happening for many years. But the public annunciation or announcement adds more gravity to this dangerous issue. And the international community is taking note. Cuba has condemned this strongly, with more than 4,300,000 of our citizens signing several books in solidarity. China has criticized the US Monroe Doctrine, stating clearly that Latin America is no one's backyard. Russia has rejected US pressures as totally unacceptable, and Iran has promised firm support for Venezuela's territorial integrity. Crucially, Nicaragua, CARICOM, and CELAC have all reaffirmed their unwavering support for Venezuela's sovereignty and the legitimate government of President Maduro. Second question, on how a U.S. invasion would impact regional security. Of course, a direct military aggression against Venezuela would have incalculable consequences for peace and stability in our America. An armed conflict in a nation of 28 million people, all determined to defend their homeland, would inevitably trigger a humanitarian catastrophe of epic proportion, not just for Venezuela, but for the entire region. Certainly, it would be another dreadful failure of aggressive U.S. policy. The ramification would be severe and multifaceted. Just to mention a few. First, let's not forget Venezuela possesses the largest certified oil reserves in the world. Any major disruption to its production would send shock waves through global energy markets with unpredictable repercussions for the entire world economy. Second, given that Venezuela had the support of other major international actors, there is a very real danger of this conflict spilling over regional borders, leading to unpredictable and dangerous geopolitical dynamics. And third, a military conflict in the Caribbean Sea poses a huge danger to the region's fragile marine ecosystem, which is absolutely vital for tourism and fishing, the livelihood of millions of people. We also have to address the false pretext for this escalation. The U.S. claim of fighting drug trafficking lacks all credibility. As our government and others have rightly pointed out, the U.S. is the world's largest market for narcotics. It is the criminal network within the U.S. that fosters consumption and launder money. Furthermore, the powerful U.S. arms industry is the one fueling the lethal power of criminal organizations in our region. The real motives, as even stated by President Trump and officials in his government, are Venezuela's vast oil and important resources, combined with an obsessive desire to eliminate a strong, sovereign, and independent adversary from the region, that is Venezuela. We must be clear, no government has the right to threaten or use force in violation of the UN Charter. This military escalation isn't just a threat to Venezuela, it is a threat to the entire region and to the fundamental principles on how nations are supposed to coexist. To be naive and ignore this fact would be a fatal mistake. Third question, Muhammad, on the relationship between Venezuela and Gaza and patterns of colonialism. Yes, this is a crucial point. The aggression against Venezuela can be viewed in a vacuum. It is a manifestation of broader plague of imperialism that we see afflicting the entire world today. This same doctrine of domination we seek to subjugate sovereign nations and control their resources is being executed with brutal despite in other parts of the world. The cruel Israeli policy of extermination in Gaza that this country has been carrying out with the unwavering political, military, and diplomatic support from the U.S. is a stark and horrifying testament to the global reach of this aggressive policy. In most cases, Venezuela and Palestine, the pattern is consistent. The violation of international law, a total disregard for human life, and the use of overwhelming force to achieve strategic objectives. This connection really stressed the urgent need for strong international solidarity. The struggles of the Venezuelan people, the Palestinian people, and all nations facing coercion are fundamentally linked. They are all fronts in the same battle against hegemony and for a multipolar world based on respect for sovereignty and self-determination. Dear friends, silence in the face of aggression in one part of the world, any one part of the world, only encourage the aggressors everywhere. The defense of Venezuela's sovereignty is completely inseparable from the condemnation of the genocide in Gaza and Israeli apartheid. On your fourth question, on whether the risk of invasion strengthened Venezuela's regional position. Paradoxically, yes. The risk of U.S. invasion has actually served to strengthen Venezuela's position within the region in several key ways. First, it has acted as a catalyst for national unity, and just as importantly, for regional solidarity. Faced with a common external threat, many nations in Latin America and the Caribbean have been compelled to close ranks and reaffirm the fundamental principle of non-intervention. The firm collective stance of CELAC in support of Venezuela's sovereignty is a perfect example of this. It's a powerful reminder to the region that allowing an attack on one nation sets a dangerous precedent for everyone. Second, it has exposed the true nature of the threat. The obvious use of a false pretext and the sheer disproportion of the military deployment have been rejected by a significant part of the international community. This has generated a wave of diplomatic and political support for Venezuelans, which has isolated the U.S. in its aggressive stance and actually strengthened Venezuela's diplomatic ties with key regional and global partners. So while the threat is severe and destabilizing, it has not isolated Venezuela. On the contrary, it has mobilized a broad front of nations that reject unilateralism and foreign intervention. This solidarity, born from a shared history of resisting imperialism, has solidified Venezuela's standing as a sovereign nation defending its right to self-determination. Your fifth question, your recommendation for countering U.S. unilateralism. Well, faced with this great situation, we have to turn our indignation into organized action and effective solidarity. My recommendations are really based on unity, diplomacy, and principled solidarity. First, it is decisively important to strengthen our regional bodies. Organizations like CELAC, ALBA, TCP, and revitalized UNASUR are essential. They are our instrument for presenting a united front against external interference. We must uphold the proclamation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace. Second, we must build a broad, active, anti-imperialist front. This means uniting people, social movement, and progressive government across the globe. Solidarity has to transcend geographical boundaries. I repeat, solidarity has to transcend geographical boundaries. It is not enough to condemn aggression in your own region while ignoring it elsewhere. The struggle in Venezuela is linked to the struggle in Palestine and to all just causes against foreign domination. Therefore, collective action is our most powerful tool. This includes firm denunciation at all international forums, consistent diplomatic pressure, and active solidarity between our people. Only through this collective, firm, and principled stance can we hope to preserve peace, uphold international law, and secure a future free from the threat of intervention and war. The declaration from Cuba's revolutionary government calls for precisely this, an international mobilization to prevent aggression and defend our inalienable right to sovereignty. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, Mr. Mohammed.